Already, Tyler's in the room. How's it going, everybody? It's Mikey Wine here, aka Gun Morning Works, and this is part 4. Super Jerry Maschinen Krieger project. I've got an announcement, a couple things to go over, and then we'll get started. I've got some Christmas haul. We'll do some show and tell a little bit later. What's up, Tyler? How you doing, man? You're the first one in. You're in. So to start things off, I have a new Amazon affiliate page, and it's where you can go and pick up some of the things that I use every single day doing scale model building. Now I started off. It's a work in progress. So the page is up. The link is in the description. You can check it out. And but some of the items on there, I'm going to go through it and start trimming down some of the things. There might be some items that are unavailable. Some stuff that maybe just might be a little too pricey. I don't know. I'm going to go through it. Right now it's just I'm just getting all those items in there, throwing everything out, and trying to get it started. But I will be adding more items too, and then trimming the list down. Right now I got about 130 items or so in there. But as soon as I get time, I'm going to go through everything again and see what should be there, what doesn't need to be there. But anyway, I primarily it's for the new builder. I wanted a place where somebody can go. You can follow the page on Amazon as well. So I'm assuming that will give you like a notification when there's new items posted, stuff like that. So it's all stuff that I sponsor, stuff that I've used, I purchased, personally used, stuff like that, to help with in scale modeling. Anything from there's some model kits up there too, anything, stuff like that. So with that, I got a new camera too. This is different from the one I've been using the last few weeks. That one was a borrowed camera. I decided to buy a different one, which is a little bit of an upgrade. You might notice a slightly better image quality. I'm not sure about that. I'll have to compare videos. But the biggest difference is this one the old camera was an Insta360, great camera. It has a 3-axis gimbal. This one has a 2-axis gimbal, so a little bit less there, but it does better in low light conditions, stuff like that. So it's an upgrade for sure. I'm still getting used to it. Hopefully everything looks good on your end, and we're good to go. So I'm going to switch down. There's a little bit different here. Hey, what's up? How you doing? Nick, right? I better be right about that because I keep screwing it up. And I'm sorry if I got it wrong, but I'm pretty sure it was Nick. So I'm going to switch things up. The other camera used to just kind of go switch off between modes when I would switch angles. This one, you'll see the full motion. Everything moves while you are switching angles. But later on, we're going to do a little bit of show and tell, and I have to talk about our Mr. George, Old School Gunpla, who sent me something very, very nice, and that will also be reviewed in a bit. So yeah, got it right. Good. Glad I got it right, Nick. Good to see you. Welcome in. Merry 2 days after Christmas, right? So we're going to go down to the bench here and just move it on down. Excuse me. Anyway, so this is not zoomed in. Excuse me. I'm trying to clear my throat. I've got another angle here, which is a little bit closer, and you can see where we're at. This is the current state of things. Now, there's a lot of work to be done here. Last time I was installing fiber optics, I actually have all of them installed in the cockpit. There's even one in the nose here. There's an LED in the camera here. There's a couple of fibers on this back piece as well. There might even be one more in the grill when that's installed, but everything's kind of just roughly wired together. I have 2 resistors. These are 56 ohm resistors, and that is for the red LED and the amber. Originally I was thinking that red was the only ones that do not run. What's up, Julius? That don't run on full 3 volts. So, but looking back at my chart, I realized that yellow and amber also run at very low voltages, usually around 2 volts, maybe 2.2 at the most, and that's about the low end of a red LED too. So I had to add resistors to both of those circuits. The third on the ground circuit here is the white LED, which runs on a full 3 volts. So that one's on bypassing both resistors, and it's on the bottom here, because eventually all 3 of these are going to be parallel together, so they'll run off a 3-volt battery. And I was testing this out, and I realized the 3-volt battery I had was, my white LED wasn't lighting up, and I was like, what is going on? And I thought maybe I had a wiring problem or something like that. Well, it turns out I just had a shitty battery. The battery I was using was old, and it would work for a little bit. So I actually taped together 2 AAAs here, which total 3 volts. And I was able to test it with that. I thought, well, it works fine. All my wiring must be good. So I ended up getting a couple of new of these little CR2032s. This is what I'll be using inside, and this works great. With a brand new one, it works great. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to turn the lights down so you can kind of see this. It's a little bit brighter. And there's probably one more strand I might put in this little engine section, which goes under the grill. It actually comes in from the bottom side. There may be one more strand there, and that's a piece of 0.5. This is it right here. Small little strand of 0.5 millimeter, and I've also bloomed the end of that. It's going to be kind of hard to see, but there is a bloomed end there to make that a little bit brighter, but it may not even be seen, so I'm not sure I'm going to install that yet. I haven't glued it in place just for that reason, because I may just end up painting it and not worry about it. But there is going to be one visible here. So I'm going to flip the lights down, and then we will, you'll see what happens here. So the camera, you notice it, I mean, it really does well in low light. I turned off my big overhead, and really there's always just the one light in the center of the room. And it's a pretty dim light. So I'm just going to hook up this battery with one hand here, and then I can kind of manipulate everything around. So you can kind of see, if I look at both ends of the cockpit, all the interior lights. And there's some on the front display as well. See there, and then there's a flickering amber one in the front. There's also a fiber in that. We talked about that too. There's that fiber there. And then there's the one back here in the back on focus camera. The camera's not wanting to focus. That's not good. But it is low light, so there we go. It'll get in there. I'm going to play around with the settings too a little bit. It might just be because I'm using a face setting and not something else, but so far I like the way this looks, and this is a fresh battery, so that's going to perform very, very well. I did notice one thing, and I was kind of concerned about this before. I've used these flicker LEDs in the past, and because they're continually changing the voltage drop on the circuit, the problem I had in the past was it was making my static lights pulse because of the on-off kind of flickering effect. But it looks like with wiring it this way and everything's kind of parallel together, I don't have too much of that. And if it does flicker a little bit, it's just only flickering the white lights in the cockpit, not the red. So I'm not too overly concerned about it, simply because I think I'm going to make a little vignette. I've got some supposed to have some wood blocks showing up that I ordered, and they're about a 5-inch by 5-inch wood block. We'll make like a little vignette. So I'm going to have a crew member or some kind of mechanic sitting outside the thing. So having it flicker really doesn't bother me too much, because it kind of adds to the whole story there. So if I flip this over, you can see all the fibers. Now I've got to, what I'm going to try to do tonight is I've got to trim all these down because I want this all to fit in this area right here. And plus be up, kind of tucked in up top, because this is where my battery access is also going to be. So I'm going to have to put this little guy here. This is the battery holder. That's going to have to fit in here too. So I may have to use some heat and kind of move these around. These are separated by color. So this is the red circuit and this is the white. I may have one more, like I said, one more strand might end up going into. Hope you're not too late. No, Lucas, you're right on time because I start at 6 o'clock. So you're not late at all. If you showed up at 7:25, yeah, you might be on the late side there. But anyway, so I got to make sure I wire these two resistors in. They'll be on their own LED, and then the white one, of course, will just run on 3 volts. Won't have its own. Only the 2 resistors are for the amber and the red. But I've got to get all that to kind of fit in this area here. So I may end up, when I take this all apart, I can kind of mount things to the back of this cockpit area, which you won't see. And that way, you know, I might use some hot glue or maybe secure it a different way. But that way, everything will kind of be out of the way and it'll just leave a bunch of room for my battery. And another thing I was considering doing was putting a reed switch in it for turning it on and off. I'll probably do that too. I didn't bring the reed switches out, but I've got those in my little LED boxes here. And that is basically just a nice, easy little switch that's activated by a magnet to turn this thing on and off. That way I don't have to keep pulling the battery in and out. I can just leave it installed in the holder and just pop a magnet on. Now, how I did these LEDs is this is a piece of 3mm tubing, 3mm inside diameter, essentially. So, and this is a 3mm LED. So first I started by, that's what you see here, these 2 LEDs here. I started by just inserting the LED in the tube. And what this does is it focuses all those fibers into one place. And it also helps the light from the LED also hit every single strand equally. So you get a nice, even, fiber optic effect. So I take a little piece of gaffer tape, tape that down, and then I take each one of the leads and I fold them 180 degrees all the way down and wrap some tape around that. And that secures it in the tube, and then fold them back again, and that's where I can solder my wires on. You can't see any of that because it's all kind of tucked in under here, and there's some shrink tubing on everything to kind of keep everything insulated. So yeah, that's where we're at. I also got some tools and stuff that were sent as well from Hobbylink Japan. I'm going to show you all that stuff later, everything that I got delivered this week. It was supposed to be here Thursday, but as luck would have it, they all showed up yesterday. So I'll be able to show you everything tonight. It's kind of cool. We'll keep our fingers crossed that. Oh, thanks, Lucas. We'll keep our fingers crossed that the wind does not pick up again and we don't lose power. Today at about 7:30 in the morning, our power went out and it didn't come back on until I think around 1:30, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So the wind has died down, so we should be okay. That's why we're going forward with the broadcast here. So anyway, I am going to slowly take this apart. One of the strands comes up to this nozzle here, and that goes underneath or actually, I glued these 2 little plates on to kind of keep all the fibers located in one spot and not folding under, because eventually when I put the bottom cover on, this little engine section here will be visible through this tiny little area here. So I don't want any fiber optics kind of getting in the way of that. So that's why I glued these 2 little white plates on the side of the cockpit to kind of funnel all those in one direction, keep them all kind of organized, I guess. That's one way to look at it. So anyway, let me put on my mags here so I can see what the hell I'm doing. And right now, I can hear the wind blowing a little bit, but it has been ridiculously bad the last well, since it's been summertime even. I think it's been really bad. This whole year it's kind of been very, very bad for wind. I've got a little breadboard here, which is what you can use to test, circuits, put resistors in. Make sure you got your wiring before you decide to install it in a model kit. I'll slowly take this apart here. Now this strand may, oh, there it goes, comes right out. Okay, so there's the one strand, and then I've got all these just kind of stuck together. I wired them all together just to kind of hold them in one place. Since they're all going to be paralleled anyway, I don't have to worry about, I just connected them all to make sure they light up. So there's the nose section. And this is a small little 3mm flickering amber. It goes out. I bent the leads up and over, so I fed it through this little area here, and then I glued it in place. So when this dome here, you can grab it. It's stuck. Hang on a second. Actually, I think I'll use my new bamboo tweezers. So this lens is going to go right over the top here, and it fits right inside that dome. So it's really going to fit nice in there. It's not sticking out too far, so it fits right inside the dome. That lens, that's going to look good. There's the nose section. Yeah. Not sure if George is going to be able to make it. We'll see. I know he's on vacation. He's not. Got another strand here. He's not. So then he's not at home. So I know that for sure. Anyway, so here's that one single strand that comes out of the top. Oops, I'm off camera. One single strand here. I just used heat to shape it in the direction that I want, and that's where it feeds right into the back of these tubes. So you can see how each one of these is taped. I just use these. The tape is just basically to hold everything there. It's a temporary thing. I've got to trim these back because what I want to do is shorten these up so they fit into this area here. So we're going to have to cut these back. Now, be very careful when you're trimming, because obviously once you cut them, that's it. You're not going to be able to make them longer. You can always trim off a little more, but you got to be real careful. Make sure you don't cut them too short, because then you're dealing with, like one or two strands you're trying to monkey with that won't fit right. This 3mm tube is just barely big enough to fit all these white strands in, because majority of the LED or the fiber optics is all white. I've only got a select few, and I just randomly picked some of the red ones just to kind of have random here, red lights here and there in the cockpit. So some from both sides, and then of course there's more of the white ones here from both sides as well. What the heck is that doing on my screen? Why is that showing up? Live viewers. Yeah, okay, cool. I can see that. Oh, that's interesting. We got 1 from Twitch and 5 from YouTube. Nice. It's the first time I've seen that show up on screen. So anyhow, another big difference is on this camera is the control board. There was, with the Insta360, there was just a small little when you minimized it to just have the controls on the screen, it was a small little bar that went across the bottom. This one has more of a full control panel on one side, so I kind of had to minimize the size of my my display screen on the laptop. So I had to reduce my basically the screen size that I'm looking at to accommodate that. So there's just a little bit of adjustment period, but all right. So let's see here. I'm going to take these off here, and then this is the ground for the white wire. Okay, now Now all the LEDs are separate. What I'm going to do now is just kind of crack open the side. I can take the whole cockpit out here. And you can work with it separately. So this line right here, I'll use these again. That back panel, this back panel fits right into that right there, that slot. So I want to try to tuck everything in and kind of keep everything as close as I can to this back panel, but also below this line. This line is where that engine section glues in, and so everything below that is fine as long as I can keep it below that line and above this area here, because again, when this piece is installed, that's what you kind of see. You kind of see that that oil pan there. There's some engine parts there you can see through the bottom. So I don't want any of these fiber optics hanging out and be visible, even though chances are it's not really going to be looked at that much from underneath unless you get some nosy person or a judge or something like that that really wants to get down and dirty and look underneath it. But you won't see it. But I just want to make sure that it's not as visible to anybody. Now, I'm not going to secure these. I just twisted them together. I will eventually wire everything in properly. This was just to test all of my electronics, make sure that the LEDs all light the way they should. As soon as I can get this thing, here we go. I got to unwind them here. So, and these are two 56 ohm resistors. Now, the red one could have used a little bit smaller resistor, maybe about a 47 ohm, but I figured, you know what, I might as well use the same. That way they're both pulling the same electricity, because if I don't use any resistors at all, what happens is electricity is like water. It follows the path of least resistance. So if I don't use a resistor on the red one or resistor on the amber, what happens is those two LEDs will light, but the white one will go out, because the white one needs more power to light it up. So you have to kind of basically you're fooling the LEDs or the battery supply, basically the electricity, into thinking that all of them are drawing the same amount of power. That's what the resistors are for. So I'm equalizing the amount of voltage that each one of the circuits needs, each LED needs, and that what essentially makes them light all at the same time. I found that out when I first started trying to do LEDs, was on my officer down diorama that I used when I entered that in the World Cup, in Gun and Builders World Cup GBWC in 2013. I ended up just separating each one into its own circuit and its own battery, because I didn't know anything about using resistors to balance out the voltage drop and stuff like that. So I just cheated and figured, well, I'll just screw it, because as soon as I hooked them up, all of a sudden one of my lights would go out, or the other one would stay on, and this one will go out, because I didn't understand the correlation between power and voltages and stuff like that at the time. All right, so what I'm going to do here is I want to cut these back significantly, but I need to make sure. So I've got about, if I measure this, so from here to here, it's about 1.25 inches, or 33 millimeters, or 1.25 inches. So I've got to try to get this reduced down to that. So we're going to cut off quite a bit. Again, like I said, be very careful, because once you cut them, there's no going back. And you have to also remember, when you use heat to bend these, like I've done here, it also changes the length of certain fibers. So you got to make sure don't cut them first and then heat them up and it's best to probably heat them up and get them where you want them first, and then you can cut them all at the same length. What's up, Tyler? Tyler has a question ahead. What does this say here? An odd load resistor, LED brake lights, cruise control checked for resistance for a halogen bulb. It wouldn't turn on. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm talking about. It's like the systems are designed to see certain voltage drops, and when you change it up, all of a sudden now it doesn't know what to do because it's not seeing the right voltage drop. Also, like my wife's car has automatic headlights. Automatic, as soon as you put the parking brake down, it turns on DRLs, the daytime running lights. And if you put LEDs in there, you have to have a resistor pack with it, otherwise they won't light properly. So it all makes sense now, doesn't it? That's the whole idea behind this. So I'm going to pull this tape so I can take my LED off. And I'm just going to put a little bit of tape on here. And again, that's just to kind of temporarily secure it. Now, this is the entire white LED with my two leads. And just to verify that, we'll take any 3-volt. I'll take my old one. I don't want to use the new one for testing purposes, but oops, I dropped it. So yeah, see, there we go. There's our white LED. And we're going to cut off quite a bit because I also have to take into account the length of this, and this whole LED setup itself is about 25 millimeters. So it's going to have to go back quite a bit in order to fit in that area. So I'm going to be going back to almost where they start to bend, where they come around the corner. So we're going to go back to maybe about a 1/4 inch here. But again, I can always trim off more. What I want to do is I'm going to start small. I'm going to cut them back past my tape line here. And then I can check again and see just how much I might even, one of my tricks that I figured out was I've taken a piece of tubing like this, and I'll show you as an example here if I can get all of them in here. It's kind of a tricky bit to get them all in, but okay, there we go. If I didn't have the tape on it, let me take a bigger piece of tubing here. Let me show you with a larger piece of tubing, and you'll get the idea. I mean, I use the tubing as a way of helping shape the fiber optics. So let me grab this piece of tubing here to get it out of this package. All right. So this is too big, but I'm using it as an example. So what I've done in the past is I've taken like a piece of tube like this. And you can shove it down onto the fibers and then use this as a way of bending them. All you have to do is get your heat source, like my heat gun or a hair dryer, whatever you're using, and then heat them up until they start to move, and then you can bend them and hold them there until they cool, and then they'll hold that shape. That's how I did this. Kind of keep these all gathered together. Same with the ones in the red circuit. So that's a little trick if you want to, if you're, how do you get them all to fit in the same area? Well, that's how I did it. I just shove them down a single tube, and then use the heat gun on them and warm them up. You'll see them, kind of move, and then boom. Hey, what's up, dude? Show me what you bought in the house. Okay, Julia's got a question. Let's put it on screen. Julia says, can you use a small zip tie and hold the fibers? You probably could. I don't see why not. If you have enough space for it, it's probably an easier solution. I could actually probably do the same, to be quite honest, and I hadn't even thought about it. But I'm sure a zip tie would work. It's not going to hurt the light source any, because remember, fiber optics light or end light, unless you have side glow fiber optics, which are a little bit frosted on the sides almost, you can actually take a regular fiber optic like this and sand it on the sides and create a side glow fiber optic. But most of the time, light is going to come right out the tip. So putting a zip tie around it and bending them that way. But I think you probably should still heat them up a little bit, because they'll hold that shape a lot better. Just like this. Like when I take this off, you can kind of see how everything kind of stays together. Even if I took the tape off, they might spread out a little bit, but they're going to stay in position. Show me what you bought is in the house. How you doing, man? I don't think you've ever been on one of my live streams yet. Maybe you have. I'm sorry if I've forgotten. I try to remember everybody, but I'm just going to pull out the old man card and say I'm old and my memory doesn't work as well as it used to. So, anyway, I don't have. Do I have any really tiny ones? I might have some tiny zip ties, but nonetheless, I can trim these back. I'm going to cut them back just past the tape here, and we'll recheck again. Let's see where they're at. I may have to run some tape on these again. Again, the 3mm tube that I'm using is just barely big enough to fit all these strands. There's a lot more white light strands that I have than the red. So fortunately, I was able to fit every single one of them in there, so I didn't overdo it. But one of the things about having tape around this is because when you go to cut these, and I'm going to use some. These cutters are more like a side cutter. They're okay for trimming. I wouldn't use them to trim the actual lights out. If you're cutting, I'm just shortening the strands, and I'll use these because I'm not worried about the type of cut. I just want to or cut them back. I don't need a nice, clean, flat cut. That's why I was using the God hands when I did each individual strand up here, because I want those to be nice and shear off very, very flat and give her a nice light. You don't want to have a type of like a V cut that a side cutter might do, but these are more like a side cutter, but they're good for just clipping off a bunch of strands. But I'm only going to do a few of them at a time, just because I don't want to cut this big clump of them all at once. I want to make sure he lurked a few times. I just want to make sure that they all get the same length. So, but also having the tape around them also keeps them from flying everywhere, because if you clip these off without holding onto them, they're all over the room. And I've got pieces of them everywhere right now, believe me. So I'm just going to keep trimming back here. There we go. And of course, that piece, the end just flew off. All right, so now there's nothing holding these. I'm going to let go of them kind of temporarily. So now you see why I use the heat. It's because even though I've trimmed these off and there's nothing really holding them together, they're still kind of staying in one spot. Excuse me. Take a little sip. Wet my whistle. But I also want to make sure that when I do clump these back together, they're the same length. And you can see, I don't know if you can or not, they're not all the same length. Some of those have retracted a little bit, but that's okay. You can kind of tap them down. The whole point is, once you get them in the tube, the LED will focus all the light on them, So now what I'm going to do is take all these and put them back in the tube. And you might have to work at it a little bit. If you miss one, that's okay. Just you grab your tweezers and kind of feed it in there. I should be able to get all of them in there. Okay. Oops, I missed two. Start over. And I had Almost have it. And like I said, it's really, there's just barely enough room. So there we go. Once I get them all in there, then they're good. Okay, so that's pretty close. I could probably go a little bit shorter because, again, this is going to sit right about here like that. So it's not quite there yet. I could tuck them in, could probably just push down, but I'm probably just going to end up taking a little more off. What's up, Jason? Jason back in. How you doing, buddy? I'm going to take off a little bit more, and that will reduce this length until I probably have enough room. All I need to do is cut out maybe another 1/8 of an inch or so. And then what I might do is use my longer tube here, which is the same size as the tube I'm using, but I'm just going to use it as a tool to tuck these in tight, maybe use some heat on them again, and further draw them in closer to this back wall. That will also reduce my my total length. If I can get them to tuck in nice and tight, then I don't have anything excess sticking out here. So I'm going to take my LED off. Now this is going to create a mess because I'm going to actually cut these back even further. I'm going to try to keep my finger over the top when I go to cut these so they don't, the pieces don't fly everywhere, because they will just scatter. And I did that earlier and they were just like boom, and I heard them hitting the walls, hitting my paint. So I cut off about another 1/8 of an inch. This is where it's going to get tricky because I don't want to cut too much. Got to be very careful. I got these little bits on the table here. Didn't have any tape holding this set, so as soon as I trimmed those off, it just kind of flew everywhere. All right. So now, whoops, I feed these all back in. If I can get them all to fit in this tube, then I can heat them up again. Yeah, this is going to be tricky because the shorter they get, the harder they are to kind of manipulate. What I may do, it's one of the things you can do. It's a little bit more tedious, but it's just kind of what I'm doing here is holding the tube, and I'm just using my tweezers, grabbing one at a time, the ones that didn't get in the first time, and just kind of feed them in. Oh, shit. Dropped it. That was the plan. It's supposed to work. As long as you don't drop your fibers, you're fine. Let's start again here. Almost got them all. I missed a couple, so I'm going to hold this here, and I'm just going to feed these in. Only like 3 left. Once I get them all in there. There we go. Okay. All right, so that's all fed in. Now, I'm going to try to do this with one hand, but what I got to do is I'm going to take my heat gun. I've got to try to be careful of these here because I don't want to overheat these. So I may end up taking another piece of tubing and just putting it over these. But I want to heat these up a little bit more so I can kind of bring this tube in tighter and fold those fibers in and hold them nice and snug against this back wall. Show me what you bought. Went everywhere. I forgot to turn the cap on the primer bottle. Oh no. Oh yeah, we're gonna put that on screen. I've done that. Actually, I did it by accident. I was thinning out some Mr. Surfacer Black Mr. Surfacer, and I had a bottle that didn't have a very good seal on it, and the cap was tight, but it just the seal was crap. It was one of those I bought it like, I don't know, I bought it at where did I buy it? It was one I went to Hobby Lobby or something, and I bought a empty bottle, there, and it just went everywhere, and before I realized that I was shaking it by hand, and it was just like, oh my god, it's all over me, it's all over everything else. So I'm gonna grab the heat gun here. It might make some noise, but let's see here. Went everywhere. Yeah, it did. So I'm going to try to get these to come in a little bit closer, like I said, to the back wall here. I'm actually twisting the tube to kind of get these to feed in. You can see now they're nice and tight. If I can get them in there really snug and then heat them up to get them just to shape a little bit more in, should be nice. So, all right, here we go. So I'm gonna try to heat this up, get everything ready to go. I don't want to heat those up too much. So let's see if I can prop this up. Okay. If I get the right amount of pressure, again, be careful with a heat gun, because once you see them start to move, you'll see the strands as they heat up. They'll actually start to bend. You know you've got your heat source there, and if you get too close, you'll melt them in a hurry. Okay, that's pretty good. It's a little bit better. I like the idea of what you're talking about using a zip tie. I'm going to see if I've got some. I know I have a bag of little ones around here. Give me 1 second. I'm going to try to find those real quick. And see, in fact, I have some that I can use. Oh, looky there. Looky what I found. Oh, yeah. This might work nicely. All right, so shrink tube. Julius, yeah, shrink tube. I just saw that comment. Shrink tube, you got to be careful though, because you're using heat to use shrink tube, and if you overheat everything, well, and then you could be in big trouble. So let's see if this works. I'm going to take this zip tie down to a relatively small size. I'm going to take all of these fibers and tuck them in. Let's see if I can, in fact, whoops, I lost one. What was that? Hang on here, I got one, I got a stray. There we go. So I'm trying to, sorry for being off camera there. I had one of my fibers was trying to run away on me. It's going to have to be pretty small. Looks like I've got all of them in there. I'm just trying to get that to tighten down onto all of them. Okay. I can pull that down. All right, so far so good. I go a little bit tighter. This is going to slip off really easily, so I'm trying to be careful. Do tiny heat guns exist for precision work like this? I don't know the answer to that question. Like I said, I've heard hair dryers work. I don't use one because I don't know if they get hot enough. I like results, quick results, so I tend to use this heat gun. But you got to be careful with it because it can get hot really fast, and then you end up. So the zip tie is going to work as far as kind of corralling these. It's a little bit harder to get it tight because the fibers are so slippery. So as I pull this down to kind of tighten it, it wants to come back. But I think once I get the LED on here, now that I have these pulled in, I can even see them, because this is what I was talking about, trimming them. When you tighten, like I'm tightening the zip tie down, and now my fibers are getting different lengths because they're taking a different turn. You can kind of see they're right here. They're not quite the same length. Some of them are a little bit longer. So I got to be careful. I want to trim a little bit more, but I want to be careful not to trim too much. So I'm just going to take a little more off the end of some of these longer ones. Okay, but that's it. No more. And I'm also going to, well, I'll do that last. Okay, let me double check. This is my white LED here. Make sure I got the right one, because once I put this on, I'm going to want to use some gaffer tape to make sure that I secure that so it does not come off. Okay, so that's my white LED. So now I've got to get all these fibers in this one tube again. Sorry, I'm trying to keep this on camera, but I'm struggling with holding it with only two hands here. So I'm going to feed these last few fibers in. I lost it. 1 second. Okay, temporarily. I'm going to pull these red ones out temporarily. There we go. Just trying to get a little more room. Some soldering irons have small tube attachments. Yeah, that's true. That might actually work. Soldering irons are pretty hot too, though. You can use a soldering iron to bloom fiber optics too. You just have to, you don't actually touch the fiber to the soldering iron. You just get it really close. It's kind of what I do with the lighter when I'm using a lighter to bloom these. Is I'll get the fiber optic close to the flame, and then as soon as you get to that right distance, all of a sudden you'll see it just kind of mushroom out, and then you know you got it. All right, 1 second. This is going to be kind of tricky. I'm trying to do this without breaking the damn cockpit too, because the back wall is pretty delicate. It just barely glues on there. So I've got to kind of hold all this and feed each one of these fibers. And I got 4 more that didn't quite make it. So I'm going to slowly tuck them in. Sorry if I'm missing comments here. I'm trying to keep an eye on it, but my focus is okay. Almost there. I got 1 more. Okay, good. There we go. All right. So there. Now I've got my LED on there, and that looks pretty short. That's pretty good. I think we're in good shape as far as. Yeah, I should be able to tuck that in. Even though it's still slightly longer, I don't have much more room to play with. So I'm just going to make sure all these fibers are pushed as far as they can be into the tube Some of them are kind of backed out a little bit, but as long as they're all tucked in there, that LED will focus it. Now, here's what we'll do. I'll even test that theory. We'll just put a battery to it real quick and make sure that everything lights up nice and pretty. Oops, I dropped it. I got to get it. There we go. Yeah, so now you can see all the white lights. Looks really good. It's focusing all that light and giving a nice fiber optic effect. Been working on an MG Sniper 2 for a while and can't remember if I clear coated the inner frame or not. Why would you clear coat the inner frame? Julius, that's my question. Are you talking about, are you going to see the inner frame? Do you think you need to clear coat it? I'm not sure I go so far as to clear coat the inner frame, especially if you're not going to see it. If you're worried about it scratching, I mean, I guess you could clear coat. If you're talking about like a section that you're going to see, like the knee or something like that, that's one thing. But I'm just curious as to why you would need that. All right, I'm going to try to secure and take these red ones out for a second. I got to put some tape on this just to make sure this LED stays in place. Don't let me forget, guys. I do have to do a little show and tell tonight, so I don't want to run out of time and not do that. So I guess when it gets down to, well, it's 7 o'clock now, so we're pretty close. I'll secure this up and maybe a few more minutes, and then we'll go into the Christmas haul list. Now I'm using gaffer tape. This is black gaff tape. It's like duct tape, only it's fabric essentially, and it's really, really sticky. I like it because I use it for when I make sticks for like this. Show you an example. I'll wrap it backwards on itself and use it to hold small parts for painting. So you wrap around once and then reverse it and go backwards, and then as you airbrush over this, you can just unroll a piece or unroll a layer, tear it off, and you've got another sticky paint stick. So that's what I use this for. This is the little goggles that's going to go on the dashboard. It's going to be like sitting inside the cockpit, the goggles for the pilot. But yeah, how do you paint them? You don't have anything to hold on with a skewer or like a alligator clip, so you stick them to a piece of tape like that. So problem solved. I'm using that zip tie on the white lights only because there was a lot more fibers involved. I think with the red ones, there's not going to be that many that I have to zip tie down. I think it'll be too hard. It's just something I don't need in the way. So I am going to use that one here for, you know what, I might just cut that off. Only because be real careful about it, but I think that zip tie is just kind of getting in the way. Good idea, but I'll carefully cut it off. Okay. Don't lose my LED. All right. Yeah, those are as far as they're going to go. Now I can just tape it. I'm just going to tape it in place. There's enough there. It's secure enough. I think with a large bundle of fibers, it might be a little more ideal maybe using that. But as much as I have here, another reason for using this black tape is it, again, will keep any light pollution from coming out, and unwanted light that you don't want to see. You don't want to be able to look at this model and see glowing, LEDs inside, the parts that you don't want to see. So the black tape around that will keep that nice and clean. And again, we'll test this again. I always test my lights. Anytime I'm doing any kind of modification, I want to test. Oops, I dropped it again. I want to test the LEDs. And I learned this not because my wiring is not reliable, but I did build a Chinese kit one time that was horrible. It came with pre-wires and stuff like that, and the wiring was so bad. Every time I did a step, I had to stop and test the wiring because I made multiple wiring repairs on these were pre-made harnesses that came with the kit, and it was a nightmare. It was a Chinese kit. You may remember the Elin Cassatria. Great when it was done, but man, what a pain in the butt. That turned me off from Chinese kits for a long time because it took them a while to come around to being any better than they were. So now I'm just kind of putting another piece of tape. I don't need this. I'm just trying to extra little strength here to make sure this doesn't come off. Again, this gaffer tape is really, really sticky, so it'll hold these nicely. Now, I do have a few more strands that are not here for the red ones because I've got one in the nose and then I've got one in the tail section here. But if I do what I did here, even if I tape it, I can still feed them in through the middle when I need to. So I can secure the LED on here, and then when it comes time to feed one of those last two strands in, I can just tuck them in the middle of these other strands because there's definitely not that many on this. It's going to be pretty easy to fit all these in the tube. It's hardly takes any effort because there's only about 12 or so total fibers. So I just need to cut these back like I did the other ones as short as I can get it, and then I have some blue tack, these alligator clips for tiny parts. That will work too. There's always more than one way to accomplish a task, and that certainly will work as well. So this was, like I was talking about earlier, we couldn't see it that well. These were these little plastic strip pieces that I glued to the side of this, and that was to keep these fibers above this little engine bay section here. That way they can't fall down without really taking some it really takes some effort. This way they kind of keeps them all channeled in the right direction. So let's see, should I trim this back? Sure, why not? Let's pull the tape on this. This is the red LED. Pull the tape on that one. I still have to wire in all of the these two resistors, so but that'll come later. I'll cut back my ground sides, these ground wires on the LEDs. I'll cut them back and put the resistors in line, and maybe even hot glue them or something to the back wall here. Some way to keep them out of the way. It won't be interfering with anything else, any other part of that build process. All right. So how was everybody's Christmas? Good, I hope. Mine was relatively uneventful. Yeah. The kids were over, but it's been such a, not to bring the room down, but it's been such a shit year that we just wanted to keep things very mellow. We didn't need to add to the stress. It was already, we didn't even have anything planned for Christmas just because it was the way things had gone. All right, so I'm going to try to give these a little bit more heat just to kind of tuck them in a little bit tighter to the body here. I can hold this with one hand. There we go. A little bit more. This one strand is just going to get up in there. There we go. Get up in there nice and tight. So just kind of hold them there. I'm going to use the heat just till I see them start to move. Once I see the strands move, I know they're hot enough. There we go. Okay. So I haven't seen George on. Is George on tonight? I don't know. I haven't seen him on. I was hoping he would be here tonight because I want to talk about him for a little bit. But if he's not here, he's not here. So I'm going to start by cutting these back to here. And I know this isn't going to be enough. I'm going to have to trim more. But it's always a good place to start. And then we can work on making the fibers the same length. Cut about another 1/4 inch off here. Just kind of trying to keep my finger over everything because, all right, there we go. I don't want them flying all over the room. Okay. All right, so here we go. Once I get this one on here, I'm going to use another piece of tape and secure this. It's actually pretty short, a lot shorter than I thought. So fortunately, I didn't go any shorter than I did because I might be in trouble. Let me get some of these loose fibers out of here. All right. Get another thin strip of tape. I used some blue tack. Oh, you already said that. I saw that, Jason. Okay. I'll take a thin strip here. I was trying to get as thin as I can. There we go. That's a good one. Right there, nice and thin. Just going to take, I'm actually going to use 2 pieces here and go around because I got this so short. This is actually the ideal length, but it's very difficult to maneuver that. And when I get to the point where I'm going to install those last 2 or 3 fibers, I'll have to cut them back too, but that won't be a big deal. It'll be easy to mount these. Let's see, how are we going to do this? I got to go around here. Oh boy. All right. Not as easy as I thought it would be. At least not as easy as I was hoping it would be. It's kind of hard to do with one hand. I'm trying, or 2 hands even. I'm trying to, shit, now I just lost all my fibers. Trying to hold the LED, trying to hold everything together while also putting tape on. Not as easy as I thought it would be. All right. Holy crap-rific. Okay, I got a major problem here. I just lost a bunch of my fibers out of the white LED as well. So now I've got to redo this. Oh boy. Let's see, now I'm in a bad spot here. This is going to take some effort to get right, but fortunately, because I heated these up in separate areas, I can see that I can see which ones are which, because my white ones are a little bit longer than my red. I thought I had those white fibers secured, but it looks like the tape did not. I didn't squeeze it down enough. Some of those fibers came out while I was manipulating the red ones. And now I'm trying to get them back together here. So let me make sure. I've got a red LED here. I'm going to double check these lights and make sure there's enough. Make sure that's all the ones I had originally lit. It doesn't look like it. It's like I'm missing some. Okay, I think these two were also included. It looks a bit better. Let's double check that. Yeah, okay. Yep, that's it. All right. So what I'm going to do, until I've got to fix this, but I'm going to have to, it's going to take some time. So what I'm going to do just temporarily is I'm going to just tape together these red ones to keep them secured while I fix the other side, because it's going to take some time, and more time than I have tonight, because these all kind of came out. I might even have a couple more here that I don't have secured in there. I don't know why they just all popped out on me, but that's the process. Sometimes shit happens. You got to know how to fix it. So even if you don't, you got to just figure it out. That's part of the process. So let's go back to, is it break in the order? Working. Where is it? A break is in order. Yes. Thank you for reminding me. I did say you to remind me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch to this view here, which brings it back a little bit. I'm going to slide this stuff aside. Again, I've got to go back and fix this. So by next week, that'll all be ready, and all be fixed, and everybody will be happy there. So we're going to go to, first things first, I'm going to talk about George for a little bit. George isn't in the room. I wish he was. But the other day, my wife and I, we buy each other things throughout the year. So oftentimes when Christmas comes around, it's like, what do you want for Christmas? And we end up, not having much to get. So this year was no different, because we had a shit year anyway with all the family drama. When it came time to, there's a couple things I ordered that weren't going to show up in time for Christmas, but they were supposed to show up actually Thursday or Friday this week. So, but as it turns out, both packages showed up yesterday. And so one of them was delivered FedEx, and that was brought to the door. And that was my Hobby Link Japan order. The other one was an order that was delivered, but it was DHL, but they transferred to U.S. Postal. Anyway, it was put in a parcel locker. So I went out last night to the parcel locker to collect the second order, and lo and behold, there was another box in there from George. And he talked about this on his stream a while back. It was something that he won in a raffle or a competition, but he ended up giving it to me. And it is a Chinese kit from Border Hobbies. And it's a German Jag Panzer IV, I think it is. That was a Jag Panzer IV, 1/35th scale. And I have to say, I don't know what they're doing in China right now, but some of these, the molds that they make, they are crispy. I mean, they are crisp and clean. I have nothing to complain about. I was looking at just some of the parts, and there's so many tiny parts here. There's even a bunch of photo etch. I'm going to just take the lid off here, kind of go through a brief show and tell. And then I open the box up, and what do I see inside? 2 boxes of AK Real Colors. Now, I've never used this stuff before, so if any of you guys know, without me doing the research on it, is this just like Mr. Color? Is it lacquer based? Does it use a lacquer thinner, or is it enamel based? Do we use enamel thinner? There's also some putty. Now, I don't know if this came with the kit or if this was something he threw in alongside, but it looks like a 2-part epoxy putty. And then these Real Colors are kind of cool. They're supposed to be these really nice paints. I haven't used, like I said, I've never used this stuff before, but this is dark tan. I'm just curious as to what is the base. Is it lacquer based, or is it acrylic or enamel or what? But I'm going to try to show you some of the molds here. I mean, just how detailed they are. I haven't opened any of these, but they're true, you know, Chinese or even the Japanese manufacturers use these little sticky envelopes. You know. I'll bring this up, and hopefully it will focus in on, come on, focus in on that. That's what I want to see right there. Come on, focus in on that. Focus in. Lacquer based. Okay, very cool. So there you go. Now it focused in. I mean, look at just the detail on these molds. It's unreal. And so I'm really kind of excited about this. I mean, this is not a cheap kit either. And the fact that he decided to give it to me, I mean, there's people in this hobby, and people you meet and people you talk to online, and George is just a class act, you know. Guy's been doing a live stream for several years. It's pretty much how we met, and I'm just it's truly it's refreshing to have somebody like that, you know, in your life, because there are so many. Here's the I'm sorry, I'm getting off track here. Here's the instruction manual, a little bit of decals, some photo etch armor. He's just a class act, and I can't say enough about him. Thank you so much, George. Definitely, like you said when you opened the box I gave you. I'm just speechless, really. It's not expected. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate it a lot. So anyway, so what's this say? Julia says, works, I believe it is an acrylic lacquer. I think AK is upgrading their formula, discontinuing the Real Colors. Oh, really? So the Real Colors are going to be something they're not going to use anymore. Interesting. But I should be able to use leveling thinner in them just fine, if I'm reading this correctly. Because acrylic lacquer, well, even Tamiya's are acrylic-based lacquers, right? So, and that works with Mr. Leveling Thinner too. So, anyway, getting back to this, thank you so much, George. Just blown away by your generosity, and I hope I can do it justice. I think it should be fun. Looking at the box art here, shows you some. Let's flip it around. Some of the painting ideas, some of the armor, some really cool photo etch, a couple other paint schemes there. But yeah, I've never even heard of this company. I mean, this is but there are some crazy good stuff coming out of China right now, and not just knockoffs. I mean, they're making the tracks on this thing are just unbelievable. They're not individual tracks, but just the detail and the molds of those tracks is just incredible. at this scale. So we're looking forward to that. Anyway, let's get to what I ordered from Hobby Link Japan. So first things first, supplies. Bunch of sanding sticks. Mr. Limit there. Barb Joe's Rex recently spoke about AK. Cool. Sanding sticks. You can never have enough sanding sticks. And they're all 400 grit. I wish I could find some 320s. They didn't have any in stock at the time, but I didn't have any of the big ones like this, so I had to pick up some of these. These are from Wave. They're available in Hobby Link Japan. And I was just trying to find stuff to throw in there when I had the other things shipped over. So that's why I did. The other thing I got was this little guy. And this is a rivet maker. Comes with a little awl handle. And these go from, let's see, the box has it listed here. So there are quite a few rivets. They're all different sizes, from 0 all the way up to what looks like 1.35 millimeters. So you've got 0.25. The 0 is a 0.25 millimeter, then a 0.3, 0.35, 0.4, 0.45, so on 0.5 increments all the way up to 1.35 millimeters. And it's just a concave type bit. So you put install it in the handle, press down, and you'll get a nice, you can see that right here, this little green picture. That's what it does. It gives you kind of like a recessed type rivet rivet detail. So in case you don't have actual rivets that you want to glue, like surface rivets you want to glue with glue on and have them raised, these will give you recessed type rivets. Okay, that's the tools and supplies. So that's that part. Now to the cool part. So many of you know that I'm a huge Macross fan, okay? And I was waiting for these two to release in December before I had them shipped over. And one of the nice things about Hobby Link Japan is you can order things that are pre-releases or pre-orders, and they don't charge you until they release. But the cool part out of it is you can actually have them held in what's called your personal warehouse. And then when you're ready to ship, you can't keep them there forever. But if you do put things in the warehouse, then once you get all the items you want, you can have them, tell them to ship it all, everything you want, and they'll put it in one box and ship it. So, first up, 172 scale, Max Battleroid from Do You Remember Love? This was the one, the latest release. This was the one I was waiting for before I had everything sent over. I think it's probably very, very similar to any of their VF1S battery designs, only it's Max, and you can have this with the wings open, wings closed. And there's a reason I say that, because I'll tell you about that in a second. I also got another weapon set for 148. Now, it's not the right scale for this one, but I do have a weapon set for the 172 as well. This is for 148 just because I have a ton of 148 Valks, and I always want to have extra weapons for them. The nice part about this is if you do your armament this way, you always have extra weapons for the next kit you do too as well. So you can actually almost get 2 full kits out of one weapon set. Kind of cool. Now, the biggest one that I was waiting for, and this is a huge box, for Hasegawa and a 172. It's massive. In fact, I can barely even fit it in the. It is the Queglion Rao. I'm just going to say Q Rao because I don't know how to say that damn thing. but it's the movie edition to go right alongside the Max Battleroid from Do You Remember Love. Now, if you've ever seen the movie, if you've not seen the movie, I will kind of give you a sum up. Miria here is she's a Meltron ace, right? Never seen defeat. She's a pretty badass. She's pretty badass. And her and Max get into a little tiff at one point in the movie. Miria here just got done dispatching Kakizaki, and Max is like, no, I'm not going to let her get away with that. So he goes after her. They get into one-on-one. They exchange fire several times. At one point, she decides to retreat to her ship, and Max follows her. Great anime, yeah. Wish the dub was better. Well, see, don't do the dub version. Just do the English subtitles. It's way better. English dub was horrible. Anyway, he pursues her into her ship right as the doors are closing, and transforms into the Battleroid, and not knowing that she's actually hiding above the door, waiting for him to enter, and they go at it, and ultimately Max defeats her. But so there's a scene there that I have in my phone, and I took this directly from the movie, and what I want to do with this kit is I want to try to recreate this. I'm going to try to get this so you guys can see it, and it's just reflecting everything. But so if the scale permits, and it's going to be tough to do, it may be just so big I won't be able to do it, because this is a massive kit. But if you look back here, there's Miria above the door, and here's Max just landing inside with the wings out, still with the micro missile pods still mounted on the wings. So this is what I want to try to recreate. Like I said, I don't know if it's going to be possible, but that's the idea. That was my idea behind it. Another cool thing about this kit is something I haven't seen Hasegawa do in a Macross kit much. I mean, typically all of their kits are one color, maybe two at the most, especially in Macross kits. But this is the first one I've seen boxed in multiple colors: gray, red, pink, black, everything. So you could probably almost build this like you would a Bandai kit, almost, and not have to paint it. Now, of course, I'm going to paint it. I paint everything. But it does have, I saw somebody else that actually done this build already. It does have some parts that they might be releasing a grunt version of this kit, because of course this is Miria's version. She's the ace pilot. It even comes with a torso if you want to have the cockpit open. I will not be doing that. Based on it depends. If I can't pull off what I'm trying to do, then yes, I might do the open cockpit. But it has a closed face shield, open face shield. There's even decals for the eyes if you want to have her face visible. It's pretty cool. Yeah, this is what the finished kit will look like. You can see the open cockpit there with the torso in it if you wanted to do that. But like I said, I think there are some extra runners or pieces on runners in here that suggest that they will probably release a grunt version of this, which would be the standard purplish color suit that the other people, the other chicks ran around in the movie. She's the ace. She's got the red suit. Nobody else has a red suit. So yeah. That's what my plan is, and that's what showed up. That was my Christmas haul. As far as the Super Jerry, I plan on using this figure set. I'm probably going to use the seated guy here, sitting outside. And I got to check my Amazon. I should have some of those, like I said, those wooden blocks. I thought they were supposed to be here already. I may be mistaken. I haven't checked the date on that. But anyway, I'm not sure I'm going to use more than one. I'll probably just use the one. But that's what I want to do with the Super Jerry kit. Anyway, with that, my friends, it's getting close to time. We're going to call this one today. I hope you guys learned something. I know I got to fix my fiber optic issue back here. I want to double check my lights too, make sure I got all the right fibers in the right place. But yeah, I got to fix this. It's going to take a little bit of work, but no big deals. We'll get it back to the way it should be. And then hopefully next week I'll start gluing this together, because the inside has been painted to fit the cockpit. So once I get that in, excuse me, then I can start working on the bottom, making sure my battery and everything is operating like it should, and close it all in and start masking off and painting this thing. Thanks for the fiber optic lesson. You are very welcome, Julius. I'm still learning too. You know, this is the third or fourth. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, about fourth kit that I've done fiber optics in. The first one was the SDF-1 a few years back, and then I did the big 120 scale Gerwalk that I also used fiber optics in the cockpit on that one. And then I also did a commissioned 144 Lando version Millennium Falcon for a friend of mine. I did that a couple years ago. So it's a learning process. There's always little things that kind of come and go as you do this stuff. I'm sure there's plenty of tutorial videos on YouTube on how to do it. That's how I kind of learned the basics. But I've kind of come along and developed my own little tricks here and there. This was a fail tonight. I've got to fix this. I didn't expect all those to come popping back out. That's just one of the things, though. You get it together, and then you start fussing with it. And I just pulled a little too hard on something, and some of the, everything kind of came out. The fibers on the outside were sticking in, but the ones that were on the middle have nothing to stick to them. The other way to do it, what I might do, I could use a little bit of this canopy glue, and maybe once I get the fibers in the tube, just kind of run a little bead around the outside, let that kind of soak in, and that will hold them all together, even the ones inside, because this stuff won't damage anything and it won't affect the lighting at all. It just will kind of hold those fibers together because there's such a big clump of them, big bundle. So once we get that all done, then we'll sort that. I'll sort out that problem, fix that, and then start working on the exterior. Hopefully in the next week or two. We'll have some more than just primer down. I'll have to put the windows in, mask them off, excuse me, in the front hatch. That's got to go on here as well. The nose section and the tail, and then the legs will be easy. These are still in plastic. They haven't even been primered yet, but there's really nothing I could do with these other than I might use the feet. There's an extra set of feet for the regular Jerry. They're a little bit different shape, but close enough to these that I may just use them to make foot impressions on the whatever base I'm going to go on. It's just going to be a little vignette, so I might do some little foot impressions on there, so you can, they'll fit where they're supposed to. Anyway, let's switch back to face camera here. Zoom on out. Thank you guys again so much for coming out tonight. I appreciate each and every one of you. Be good humans. We'll see you next week. Later, everyone. See you. See you, Nick. Julius, you're welcome. Hello. Oh, Cookie92. You caught me right at the end, buddy. Unless you're watching me on Twitch, so you might have been there for a bit. But good to see you, buddy. Anyway, Mystery Cookie92, thanks for joining in. But you did catch me right at the end here, so I'm going to be wrapping things up. Hopefully next week we'll have this. I'll solve this fiber optic problem and have everything stuck together. See you later. Thank you. You're welcome. And you guys we'll see you next week. Like I said, be good humans, and we'll talk to you soon. Peace out.